We'll probably be chatting for half an hour or so, maybe a bit longer. It really depends on the questions and where this goes. We're not going to try and sell you stuff. This is really a bit of a public service broadcast, I guess. One of the reasons that I did it is that I'm very keen to learn some romantic tips. I'm an engineer. I run various companies and do a lot of technical stuff, but I think it's fair to say that I have no expertise in this subject whatsoever. So without further ado, let me introduce Susanne. Susanne, do you want to say hello? And first of all, tell everybody a little bit about what you do, because I'm sure that not everybody on the call knows what a relationship coach really does.
There you go. Hi, it's great to be on the call. Thanks very much for inviting me. Appreciate that. And I'm looking forward to some fun today. Good old Valentine's fun. Yeah, I'm a relationship coach. I'm also an author. I'm a psychologist. And I have a kind of a three-pronged approach when I work with people. One is that I help singles attract quality relationships. I also help couples who are in crisis and want to improve their relationship. And I help men and women whose relationships don't make it, but they want to have a good uncoupling. They want to have a good divorce or a good separation. So it really is about, having good relationships with oneself and with the people that you're involved in. Yep, and okay. I get the helicopter view, and that helps me to help people to emotionally detach and to look at their situation differently. I take them through different processes. And, because at the end of the day, our relationships are the biggest predictor of happiness. The quantity, I help couples who are in crisis and want to improve their relationship. And I help men and women whose relationships don't make it, but they want to have a good uncoupling. They want to have a good divorce or a good separation. So it really is about, having good relationships with oneself and with the people that you're involved in. Yep, and okay. I get the helicopter view, and that helps me to help people to emotionally detach and to look at their situation differently. I take them through different processes. And, because at the end of the day, our relationships are the biggest predictor of happiness. The quantity and the quality of our relationships has a huge impact on our happiness levels.
Wow. So it's really important. This is not just something which is trivial and nice to have. And I think I read somewhere that if you're in a good relationship, you even live longer. Would you agree with that?
Yes, they're doing a lot of some new research is coming about the immune system and other health benefits to being in happy relationships. And the whole positive psychology movement has done a lot of research on happiness and how you can increase happiness levels. And they say the number one predictor is good, happy, fulfilling relationships.
Yeah, I guess if you're in a bad relationship, you don't live longer. It just damn well feels like it, right?
It feels like it, yeah. Yeah,
it just feels like it. Okay, so, I mean, we hear a lot of stuff about romance and, I'm sure other men, if there are some other men on the call, I'm sure they have been forced to watch soppy chick flicks, Love Actually and all that nonsense. I mean, isn't romance just nonsense? Isn't it just twee kind of commercialism around, selling Valentine's cards, balloons, and sort of cuddly bears and stuff?
Well, it's interesting when you just think about the history of Valentine's. It actually started as a fertility festival with the Romans. And it sounds kind of kinky when you read about it, actually. The Roman priests would get into a sacred cave, and they would sacrifice a goat for fertility and a dog for purification. Then listen to this. They'd strip the goat's hide into strips, dip them in the sacrificial blood, go to the streets, and chase the women and gently slap them.
Hey! That's got to be better than a standard meal for two off of the romance menu at all bar one, isn't it? Table for two?
Yeah. There you go. That should be a favorite among the men, right? And then at the end of the 5th century, it was considered very un-Christian. And so the Christian church kind of took over that pagan festival and turned it into Valentine's. And then poems were starting to be written about love and Valentine's in about the 1400s. And apparently in the UK, Valentine's Day began to be popularly celebrated around the 17th century. So it kind of evolved from something quite kinky to absolutely being a no-no to turning into this all what we have now with Hallmark and candy and chocolates and romance and love and gushy-mushy feelings and all of that. So yeah,
and it's quite difficult now, isn't it? Because you feel that you want to be romantic, because I think a term that people use, you kind of feel obliged to be romantic. when actually a lot of that stuff for many people, I'm sure it can't just be me. I know it's not just me, other guys as well. It's just, it doesn't feel right. It's kind of like once a year you've got to do something that's not you in order to prove that you love the one that you love for the rest of the year. Mad.
Yeah, and you're not, it's not just guys. Couples have that issue as well because, you've got two kinds of romances. You've got the optional romance, which is you just kind of want to do things whenever you want to show that you appreciate or love somebody. You might come home from work on a weekday with a favorite bottle of wine. You might, buy little surprises for each other. You kind of do it spontaneously just because you feel like it. Then you've got the obligatory romance, which is what Valentine's is about. Someone tells you that on the 14th of February you have to show up with chocolates, candies, flowers, champagne, whatever. And so it does feel unnatural, and a lot of couples resist it as well as men resisting it.
And do you think it's different if you're single, if you're married? I mean, there is one school of thought that says, when you're out in the acquisition stage, then you've got to do all this stuff. But, once you're married for a while, does it really matter? I mean, you've kind of got one in the bag by then, haven't you?
Well, they say you've got to nurture a relationship. And there's a lot of very interesting, very new research that's coming out in terms of what keeps couples happy. And a big part of that is trust and how trust gets betrayed. And simple things like not nurturing a relationship, not protecting the relationship, not making your partner feel that they're important, withdrawing emotionally, all these are forms of betrayal and just serve to lead to an unhappy relationship. So, no, it actually is quite important.
Can it go the other way, though? I mean, the number of people that I know, or male friends that I know, you buy the wife or the girlfriend or boyfriend, whatever relationship you're in, some flowers, and suddenly it's like, okay, so what's he done?
So, but you said something really important earlier. You said it just doesn't feel natural. So if he's buying flowers and it doesn't feel natural for him, it's not going to come across as natural. And really, gift giving isn't about trying to prove that you love somebody. It's supposed to be an expression of love or an appreciation. And maybe for guys, too, turning the whole romantic idea around. Instead of calling it romance, you have to, be romantic. How about just appreciating your partner?
Yeah, I really like that. That's so much better than putting all this false wrap around it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And even
I'll tell you what
you might be forced to. You don't have to do big things. This is a time where size doesn't matter. It's about the meaning behind whatever you're doing.
Size doesn't matter. You heard it here first. Okay, here's what we'll do in a little while then. We've got two genders on the call, so we'll do some tips for guys to be romantic to ladies and vice versa, but not the kind of normal stuff. Everybody can go down to Hallmark, buy the cards, and take them for a meal. So later on, we'll discuss some things that we can do for each other to express appreciation in a different way, because that might be quite good for people to try something different instead of the same old, which is actually quite lazy, and it's quite cheap because everyone's got a special offer on Valentine's Day, haven't they?
It's lazy, and it's giving a really negative message. The message is, you're not really that important to me, that I haven't taken time to think about you and to let you know how I appreciate you. That's really what underlies that, and that creates mistrust in a relationship, and if that adds up over time, and I have worked with couples where that has been the case, and the relationships eventually will not last. They eventually do break down.
Okay. Before we go very much further, I just want to tackle one thing head on, and that's the kind of equality, sexism stuff, because it seems that in the modern era there is like almost, in most of the day, most of the working week, there's a pressure to be so gender neutral that to recognize any differences can end you up in an industrial tribunal. But then on this one day, or this time when you're supposed to be expressing love, then you have to do something to make them feel really different, special, feminine, masculine, etc. So, how do guys treat ladies like ladies without getting slapped, and how do how do women make their men feel masculine without being subservient?
It is really interesting. You're right, because the whole Valentine's is so gushy feminine, isn't it?
Yeah.
Hearts, flowers, pink and red. It's anything but masculine, even though that's not really the way it started. It was more, the god of love. Yeah, well, in terms of the gender differences, I think people have to just ask each other, because there's an assumption that all women are emotional, all men are logical, and actually that's only in 60% of the population where that's true. So number one is not to make stereotypical assumptions, is trying to find out, for example, love languages. I don't know if you've read the book by Chapman called 5 Languages of Love.
No, that sounds good. Tell me what he says.
Yeah, I think that's a much better way of thinking about how to be romantic with somebody rather than, okay, this is a girl or this is a guy. He talks about 5 different ways that people feel loved. One is words of affirmation. So you feel most cared for when someone tells you how wonderful they think you are, or what they appreciate about you. Another way, the second is acts of service. For example.
Oh, I like that one. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, maybe your partner washes your car and gets it waxed and whatever, or does a few of the tasks you normally do. So acts of service. The other areas is affection, a hug, a kiss, a snuggle. Quality time is another love language. Just being with a spouse. It could be watching the sunrise, sunset, going for a walk in the park. It's just having that time together. And the last of the 5 love languages is gifts. But we assume that gifts is the only love language. But there's those 4 other ones as well. And the more you understand where your partner's coming from, the more you're going to nail it right.
Okay, so this is good. I like this because I've always assumed, and I think it's in popular culture assumed, that if you love someone, you buy them stuff, and that might have been okay, I don't know, 150 years ago. You buy them a loaf of bread and some gravy, and they're made up because that's something they're not used to. But now everybody's got everything. I personally don't think it's about the stuff anymore, and I find that a bit of a relief. I mean, can you confirm that you don't have to buy expensive presents in order to show your appreciation? That the amount of money spent is not in linear proportion to the love exchanged. Is that fair comment? Please say yes.
Correct. It's more about aligning what you're buying with how that person receives it. At the end of the day, the receiver determines whether it's a gift of love. And so the more you understand the language of love that person speaks and hears love, the more you're going to get it right. And you're right in terms of gifts. I mean, you have different kinds of people. For example, you have object people and you have experienced people. Object people, they love to get gifts and things. Experienced people they like love expressed in experiences. I'm more of that. I don't want a whole bunch of things. Let me, buy me a ticket to jump out of an airplane 14,000 feet, high up. That's me.
And if they really love you, they'll buy you the higher ticket for the parachute, right?
That's right. No, your lover may want to get rid of you and he's not telling you, but okay, that's something else. But if they feel loved, right?
Okay, so it's official then, from a lady's point of view. I know we're generalising, but expensive presents are probably not necessary, and maybe even, I don't know, could they be seen as payment for the sex that's going to follow, hopefully, as long as you follow through on your half of the transaction?
I think probably a lot of women do see it that way, and a lot of women are expecting that, and they're very suspicious. And more so, not because it's a big gift, but if it's not really aligned with who she is and how, in her language of love. And women are very intuitive. If a guy's going to buy something, a gift, just to get her knickers off, that doesn't work. Now,
yeah, but if you spent a lot of money, she's more likely to put out for him, don't you think?
She might feel the pressure, but, women are learning to say no.
Yeah. Oh, yes, we know that. But that's the way it should be. We shouldn't be treating relationships as transactions, should we? There's a profession that deals in that, and it's not selling love, it's selling short-term gratification, shall we say. Right. It shouldn't be transactional.
It's not transactional, it's an expression of the relationship.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so when are we going to change the language around the whole marriage thing then? Because I got married fairly recently, and I think even still today, the father still gives the bride away like it's a piece of property. You exchange the the ownership papers at the church, a bit of a dance, and off he goes with a new wife. I mean, might as well be a piece of property.
You really want to get me started on that? Do you really want to?
I really want to get you started on that.
That comes from the old paradigm where the whole institution of marriage was based on you get married in order that the property inheritance can be passed down through the family. And you got married as an economic unit. So that doesn't apply anymore. We're in the modern world where we now want this thing called love and intimacy and deep connection, and yet we're still stuck following the old paradigm. And that's why there's all the confusion around.
Okay, so how then, and this is something which is, I've spoken about this to a lot of my friends, is how do we reconcile that then with still having a place for a man without emasculating him? Because whatever you say, whatever we intellectualize this, we're cavemen, we want to look after our women and we want to provide for them and we want to be strong because it's the way we're built. It's not something that we choose as a fashion statement. It's the way that we're built, and sometimes that can come over as perhaps sexist. Maybe it can come over as sexist.
Not at all. But it's a question of shifting the meaning. What does it actually mean to protect? You know, you don't have to take your bat and run out and kill the bears because there aren't any. But in the world that I'm in, if you can help protect me emotionally, that's going to build the trust in the relationship. And this is where a lot of women are struggling because women are showing up in a very masculine way. You know, they're independent, they've got their careers, their jobs, and I work with a lot of very successful women who are stuck in the masculine. And because, you know, they were pushed, you know, go out, go to university, get a job, make yourself successful. Oh, by the way, why aren't you married yet? So they've been pushed into this masculine role, and they're stuck in that. So a lot of the work for the women is about stepping into the feminine, which allows them to dance in his masculine.
And it seems to me that recognition is fairly recent, kind of post-feminist, is that it's kind of okay to celebrate the difference as opposed to try and pretend we're all the same. Would you agree?
I think you can do a bit of both. Because actually when you think about it, in terms of where we're really different is in terms of the physical, sexual. The higher you move up the emotional ladder, the more we're actually alike. And I mean, I've worked with high-flying CEOs, guys in my office during my coaching days, executive coaching days, and they're like, you know, my wife never lets me know that she appreciates me. All I do for her, she never tells me that. So when you get up towards the emotional needs, men and women are very much alike. As you get more to the physical, sexual needs, that's where we become very different.
Okay, well, let's get down and dirty for a minute. Tell us where we're different down in the sexual side of things.
Yeah, well, the women want the cuddles and the passionate kisses. And in fact, one of the surveys I was just reading about said couples with the happiest, of the couples in the happiest marriages, 76% regularly exchange passionate kissing. That's very important.
Wow, 76%. That must have been a fun bit of research to do, huh? Not 74 or 75, but 76.
76. And the other thing is for happy couples, for both men and women, the number one wish, for the unhappy couples, the number one wish from both, the number one wish was communication, better communication. The second wish on their wish list for the unhappy couples I wish they could have was affection, same for men and women, and here's where it differs. Third on the wish list for the men was sex. Third on the list for women was financial security. And fourth on the list for women was sex. So there was a difference there.
Yeah, there's a different emphasis. Would you agree, though, that primarily men's kind of sexuality is all about doing and women's is kind of more about being?
Yeah, and another way of looking at it is for men, sexuality is more about releasing tension, whereas women, it's more about connection. So there's a big difference there as well.
So it's kind of like we've been made, you know, and this is one of the questions actually that someone's sent in. Is it really true that that sex isn't all that important in a relationship? And I would say no. I think what we're saying here is that it's important, but it's different. It's kind of like Mother Nature has made us have that disconnect right at the point of contact where it matters. And I wonder why. You know, it's so difficult for people.
Well, yeah, and I guess that's part of our biology from the when we were cave people and the whole old model of being, and there are huge differences there. But we also have these things called brains, And we don't have to be pulled by our basal instincts and by those drives. If I was ruined by my drives, if I got mad at somebody, I might punch them. So I have to hold back some of my basic drives as well. I mean, I'm usually a nice person, but I have my moments.
Yeah, problem is men don't tend to think with their brains. That's it's not the primary motivation center, is it?
That's not what they've been trained to do. But take tantric, for example. That's a whole different level, and that is where you're thinking about sex in a bigger, more powerful way, actually, and where it is about control. It is, and it's about having great sex, but it's in a different way. It's not just this drive and no connection, and it's about having sex for hours and hours.
And I think you've used that connection word a lot, and I think that's what's kind of missing, isn't it? And that people are trying to do what they think is right, or do what they feel they should be doing because of the societal pressures or the traditions. And actually, at the end of the day, you just got to be yourself, and you've got to connect with another human being. And whatever that looks like to you might be different to someone else, but it doesn't matter.
Exactly. It's really interesting that we live in a time where we have more ways of connecting with more people in a shorter space of time, and yet we're feeling more disconnected. It's really ironic. But I think part of the modern technology has an impact on that, because we're all scanners now. We don't take much time. We just have to scan a page in a computer. We just click a button and we get what we want. We're not used to actually being present and understanding how to really connect with somebody.
Okay, so let's have some tips, if you have them, to make people feel connected. Because I've got to say, I think a lot of the stuff on the internet, people feel very connected until they actually reach the person, meet the person, and then it's almost difficult to have that level of connection that they've had in the cyber world when they're sitting on the sofa together. So let's have some connection tips. People might want to write these down. This is going to be useful on Valentine's Day, I'm sure.
Well, part of the issue when you're online is you can pretend to be whoever you think the other person wants you to be. You can be an actor or an actress.
Mm-hmm.
So number one is really about being real. And that's what I called my book, Get Real. It's about getting real. It's about showing up as you are, not pretending to be somebody else.
So warts and all, vulnerabilities, okay? Or should we keep those away until we're a little bit closer to the person that we're pursuing on Valentine's Day?
Yeah, it's a bit like an onion. You don't go straight for the middle. You peel the outer layers first and then gradually peel towards the inside layers. That's the same with relationships. You don't want to just give somebody everything right in the beginning. Process.
So what do you feel about taking time and actually writing physical love letters and things like that, as opposed to all the electronic kiss, kiss, kiss and LOL, whatever that is, on text? I mean, is there still a place for writing that little special letter, or is that out of date now?
It depends when. I mean, on a big day like Valentine's, it's probably nice to try something a bit different, or on a birthday or an anniversary. If you do that all during the year, then, do something different on the special holidays. But it is the world that we live in. It does create a lot of miscommunication, though, because you don't have the intonation.
Mm-hmm.
I know couples have broken up over messages.
Yeah, you've got to be careful with punctuation and spelling. If you get it wrong, it could be read in different ways to what it's meant.
Yeah, or just different words have different meanings to different people. We think we understand the same words, but actually we don't, because we have our own experiences we're bringing with us.
It's very different. Well, time for a couple of questions, I think, before we go into some more specific tips. Question here, please, am I being old-fashioned in wanting a monogamous, can't even say it, I think you know what I'm talking about, monogamous relationship?
Yep.
Yeah. Is that old-fashioned?
It might be old-fashioned, it's part of the old paradigm, but if that's who you are and that's what works for you, then you have to stick with that. There's no right or wrong. I think that's what's different about the modern day. We have to quit thinking about rules. There are no rules. We're making them up as we go along, in a sense. The bottom line is about being true to who you are and what you really want.
Yeah, so if you meet somebody who doesn't want it, there's no point pretending, and it's not going to work anyway, is it? So if he or she doesn't want it the same as you, then there's plenty more fish in the sea, as my granddad used to say.
It's about showing up, really knowing who you are, what you really want, what your values are, and monogamy is a value, the core values, and then showing up that way and keeping your dating strategies and your relationships aligned with that. Don't pretend to be somebody you're not just because you want to be liked or loved. doesn't work in the end. You just attract the wrong kind of person.
And do you think a lot of people go for the wrong type of person because they don't have the confidence to hold out for the right kind of person? Is a lot of self-esteem and confidence mixed up in this?
Yeah, I think there is actually, and that's for two reasons. One is because we are still stuck in the mindset that if you're on your own, there's something wrong with you. You know what? You're not married by this age, and that tends to be worse for women. You know, what's wrong with you? So there's that pressure, and couples get tax benefits and pension benefits that singles can't pass on to each other legally in any way. And so there's all this stigma around what's wrong with you that you're still single. I can't believe no one snapped you up. There's that. What was the other one now? I just went blank on that one.
Oh, it's okay. We'll come back to that because there's another question, and it's actually several people have asked this in various forms, but I'll summarize it. And this is for people who are not single. People in existing relationships, whether married or long-term, is what's the best way to keep an existing relationship fresh and happy? And that's not just for Valentine's Day, that's for every day, I would think.
Well, I guess the way to answer that question is to reverse it and think about, what's making it stale. Is it the same routine? Is it not trying anything new? Is it getting stuck with what one of the researchers called it teamwork? You've become a team rather than lovers because you're raising kids, you've got your jobs, and you've become a team. And that will inevitably lead to an unhappy relationship. What kept the spark going when people first got together? They made an effort. They took time. They tried different things. So you need to bring all those elements back into a relationship.
So maybe even try going on a date again and pretending that it's first time.
And it's especially crucial if you have children. I mean, this Gottman's recent research was saying that children actually ruin relationships. You don't think about that when you become pregnant. You think, we're going to have this child. It's going to connect us, and we're going to be more bonded. But then you become parents, and your life gets to be more routine, and you kind of lose each other as a couple. So for those who are going to have babies or have children, you've really got to focus on you as a couple. And as you say, you still got to go out on dates. You still need to date each other. And remember, you're a couple first before your parents.
Yeah, I haven't got children, but it must play hell with your sex life. I mean, how do you keep that fresh?
Oh, yeah. It's not fun when you're having sex and the children, one or two of them come in the bedroom. Mommy, Daddy, what are you doing? I mean, most adults have had that. Most parents have had that experience. Or you're waking up 3 times a night, because the kids are, aren't sleeping. Or they're ill and they keep waking up, whatever. Yeah. So it's about making an effort. And if you think about it, we have 3 resources: time, energy, and money. And those are the 3 resources. We have to prioritize what's important for us, and the way we can tell what's important for us is how are we using those resources. So, for example, I worked with a female client once, and her husband never honored their anniversaries, her birthday, Valentine's, Mother's Day. He was always off golfing. So he always had time, energy, and money for his career in golf, but not for them as a couple. And you can imagine what happened to that relationship. And you get men where the wives are also just out, doing their thing, shopping or with the kids, or they get so obsessed with the kids. The kids become number 1, husband is number 2. That creates huge risks as well in the marriage. And what parents need to remember is kids are going to grow up and leave, and you'll be stuck with each other at the end of the day.
Yeah, I've even heard it go as far as people being jealous of the kids because they're now getting all the attention that used to be for the partner. So I guess it's difficult to manage because there's no kind of rule book on this stuff, isn't it? It's difficult.
There is no rule book. And that's what's important when couples get together, to really start discussing all this stuff right from the beginning.
Here's one, I think.
Make dates, take time, make an effort. Surprises.
Yeah, I think there's a business opportunity here to do what they do in Japan a lot, which is have love hotels where you can book a room. I mean, some of the rooms are just way out. I mean, fantasy rooms for a couple of hours during the day, and no one says it has to be in the evening, does it? You can pop out and take some time during the day. Yeah.
Some of those are starting to pop up in the States. I'm imagining they're coming to Europe too. Like there are some websites where you can Google Valentine's hotels, and they'll have reduced prices, and they'll have Valentine's hearts and champagne and sexy games and whatever in the rooms. Yeah, so it's starting to pop up, but it's becoming a business. Why don't we just go into that? How about
let's do that. But we may have different ideas, being men and women, as to what we want to do in that room. Yeah, you hold the teddy bears, all right?
But
no, seriously, I think this.
Women like sex. I want you to know this. Women like sex too.
Really? Oh wow!
You've got to think about the woman's conditioning. Women have been conditioned to say no, and we have these phrases like, I don't know if I'm allowed to say it.
Not the women I know don't.
Slut, flag, whores, and there's no equivalent like that for men. They're studs. So we've actually been conditioned. It's in our kind of cultural conditioning to say no and to think that we can't just enjoy our sexuality and our sensuality. Then we're bad girls. We're only good if we're married. Then it's okay. And
yeah, but we want you to be bad girls when you're married. That's wrong, isn't it? It's like you can't.
If the women are honest, they want to be bad girls too. But they don't.
Okay.
But there's still a perception that if they're bad girls, they're going to be talked about as bad girls. So there's that kind of cultural stuff still hanging. Plus, if you look at the media, women are always being criticized in terms of how they look, their bodies. They're too fat or they're too skinny. So again, they're culturally conditioned to not like their bodies. It's kind of hard to have really playful, fun sex, kinky sex, when you don't like your body.
I've never met a single woman who likes her body, and that's sad because I've known some beautiful women, and it's cultural stuff, isn't it? It's like, it's ridiculous. Celebrate whatever you look like.
Yeah, exactly. But that's where the men can really help the women too, because if the men criticize, you've got a little bit of a spare tire there, well, that's going to shut her down, because women are just conditioned not to like their bodies.
Yeah, any man that says that to a woman probably deserves to be shut down, I would suggest. But yeah, you're right.
Don't you think? Run down the street naked. Get used to it.
You're in Florida, right? Not in London. It's a bit warmer in Florida than.
Okay,
yeah.
save it for the summer then.
Yeah, it's rude to point. Okay, so another question in here, and I think this is one that I'm sure a lot of the ladies on the call will identify with, is how can you stop your husband thinking that you're his mother? I think I can understand where this is coming from, because quite often men don't grow up, do we, really?
Well, do you know what I say to the women? Stop acting like their mother. A relationship is a dance. It takes two to tango. If you're stuck in a certain footwork, a certain pattern, then the women are contributing to that footwork. And I see it often. These independent women get married, and then suddenly they're doing all the washing, they're doing all the housework, they're doing all the cooking, they're doing all the nagging. It's like they have become their mothers. So quit being their mothers then.
So you tend to get what you encourage, I suppose. It's a bit like, encouraging people at work to do things with a bonus. If you reward people for doing the stuff that you want them to do, they do more of it, don't they?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
So
do you think sometimes, though, there's a deep kind of thing going on here where the women like to moan about it, but actually they kind of like it anyway because it gives them a sense of nurturing before they have children, maybe? Or am I going to get slapped? Maybe it's a good job you're in Florida.
It might fit into where, you were saying that, what do men have to do to have sex? And I think for a lot of women, it's like, okay, what do I do? What do I have to do? And who do I have to be to have a relationship? So that both men and women are getting stuck in the old rules about that. And then it becomes unequal and unfair. And, then you have unhappy men and women. But also
so I think the key to this is equality, isn't it, really? Equality, but equality with difference as opposed to sameness.
It's actually really figuring out what you as a couple really want. If she wants to do all the housework, fine, but you're right, don't complain about it then.
Yeah, you're right.
But again, we're stuck between two paradigms, old and new, and the confusion. We're still stuck with the old rules, but we're living in this modern world, and we're all struggling. We need to be more open and communicative, and we need to heal this gender rift that's going on instead of increasing it. I'm really...
As somebody who spends time in the US and the UK, do you think the Americans are ahead of us in this? Because what tends to happen is what happens over there comes over here eventually.
I'll tell you what, though. No, not everything. Just the bad stuff. The Brits tend to take on the bad stuff from America. I tell you what, I lived in Denmark for 7 years, and that was 15 years ago. And after 7 years there, when I came back to the UK, I thought I'd gone 50 years back in time. I think the Scandinavians are actually quite much more ahead when it comes to
okay.
Yeah.
So we should be learning from our friends over there. I know it's good. Okay, well here's another thing that a couple of people have asked actually, and I'll try and sort of summarise it. How can I get my husband to appreciate that I don't think and I don't act in the same way as him? And I think probably you could also do that, substitute for wife. It's about this difference in the way people think, isn't it? Maybe what was that book? Men are from Venus, men are from, no, you know the one I mean, Mars and Venus.
Yeah.
Yeah, who ended up getting divorced, incidentally. So I'm not quite sure what he knew about it. But how do we do this difference without being sexist or treading on each other's toes?
Yeah, see, I think difference is what makes the world go round, but what we tend to do as human beings with difference is we turn it into good and bad. And then once you turn something into good and bad, then we want to start fighting about it and who's right. So to me, it's about embracing the difference, stepping out of ego and saying, it's okay that somebody's different. Let me understand how that difference is. It doesn't mean that something's wrong with me. I think we need to get out of that idea of this right and wrong, good and bad. There's introverts and there's extroverts, and introverts get a bad rap. But, if the world's full of extroverts, we're in deep trouble.
Yeah.
Extroverts have a lot to offer. So it's really about embracing the differences, saying that people are different, not just men and women, but within genders. The differences are greater within the genders than between the genders, if you look at the research.
So that again, the differences are there's more difference between genders than within genders. Is that what you're saying, or the other way around? Sorry, Susan.
There's more difference within the genders, so more difference between women and between men and men than between men and women.
Oh, right. No, I completely agree with that. 100%. Yeah. But still,
the stereotypes are around. We make a lot of assumptions. So you might say something, and I'll go, "Oh, typical man," and I'm not actually even hearing you and really getting to know who you, Pete, who you really are, because I just made the assumption that all guys are like that, so that's what you mean.
Yeah, which is absolutely true. It can be divisive, and yeah, I mean, we just need to be more open about how we feel and how we are, and be more honest, don't we? Really.
Be more open, be more honest. Try to let go of the stereotypes, and the person in front of you. It's about being really in the moment, meeting them as if you've never met them before, and you're really curious about who are they, what makes them tick, and don't make any assumptions. And often people don't know themselves who they are until you start asking those kinds of questions, because they're trying to fit in. And so if the stereotype says men are like this and women are like this, we try to fit into them, not realizing we're doing it, because we all want to be loved and liked, and we want to fit in. So it's about really being present, really being attuned, being curious, and genuinely wanting to get to know that person standing in front of you. And that's the same for couples as well as for singles, meeting other singles.
Can you just elaborate a little bit on what you mean by being present? I'm not entirely sure that I understand that.
It is as if you're meeting this person for the very first time. You don't have all this baggage that says men are like this, women are like this, old people are like this, young people are like this. You're really totally just in the moment. It's about being in the moment.
Okay. And giving them your full attention.
Full attention. And really come from a place of curiosity and non-judgmental position.
Okay. And that's so much better than all these cheesy chat-up lines. God knows, they never work, but people still try them, don't they?
Well, that's what makes you feel connected. When I've heard people say all the time, well, he doesn't get me, or she doesn't get me. And that's the biggest breach of trust and connection, is when someone doesn't get somebody. That's when you buy the fake gifts, or you're making assumptions, or you're projecting all the stereotypical stuff, or you're projecting your past partners onto your current partner. That happens a lot as well.
Mm-hmm.
So being really present and in the moment.
Very complicated stuff, or at least it's complicated if you're not genuine. And I think this is the same stuff in some ways when you see people trying to sell from stage, or trying to sell stuff in businesses. They think that in order to be successful, they need to be someone different, and everyone can see through a fake salesperson. In the same way, everybody can see through someone who's being fake, because in a way they're kind of trying to sell themselves, and the best way to sell yourself is to be yourself, isn't it?
Exactly. And you might sell yourself in the short term, but then what happens is, I always say, it's like wearing a mask. You pretend that you're somebody else, so somebody gets attracted to the mask, then you've got a real problem. Because then you have to go into what I call mask maintenance strategy. You've got to keep that mask on.
Mask maintenance?
Yeah. Because if you put a mask on and projected yourself that way and someone's become attracted, if you take the mask down, they're not going to be attracted to you because they got attracted to your mask. So to me, it's not about self, it's about being who you are and attracting somebody that is aligned with who you are.
Certainly don't want to be wearing a mask for 40 years, do you? That's for sure.
No, it's hard work. And I've seen it happen in the business world. I've seen it happen in personal relationships. It burns you out. And the relationships don't last.
Well, for the benefit of people that are sort of trying to start a relationship on Valentine's Day, or going after the girl or boy of their dreams, there's a question here about Valentine's love. Is it a specific kind of secret love? Is it something which is so different to going out on a normal date? Should we do anything different just because it's Valentine's Day? And how do you handle someone who is disappointed, a disappointed wife or partner who sort of sees everybody else having a romantic Valentine's type love and they're not feeling so special? Is there anything special about Valentine's? I mean, it sounds like it used to be all about sacrificing goats, which I'm a big fan of, but nowadays is there anything that special?
On the street and smacking them and hoping they'll be fertile, right?
Well, yeah.
A really interesting exercise could be to just sit and watch all the couples that feel forced to go to the restaurants and spend a lot of money, and they're quite miserable, and they're trying to keep this conversation going. It's all unnatural. When you watch that, you realize, okay, this is not what it's about. And
right.
I like to broaden Valentine's Day. Why does it have to just be romantic love between, lovers? It's about love. It isn't love for everybody, and it can be expressed in lots of different ways between lots of different people. I tell singles, go have a Valentine's party and bring your friends, and it's an appreciation fest. At the end of the day, we can make Valentine's what we want it to. We put the meaning into it.
You know what? I think you've hit the nail on the head. The fact that it's about appreciation, not some kind of confected protocol in order to sell restaurant seats or teddy bears. It really is about getting real. And maybe, in a way, the old Valentine's way of doing things, a pagan festival, it perhaps was a bit more raw, but maybe it was a bit more real with it.
So, we have the choice. We succumb to it, or we reframe it.
Reframe the whole thing. That's good. I like that.
But you do have a situation with couples when one isn't into it and the other one really is into it, and couples just need to have a conversation. And it's not about right or wrong. It's like, okay, what does Valentine's mean to you? What does it mean to you when I give you a gift or we spend time together? What does it mean to you if I don't? It's getting to the meaning of it. It's not the day itself.
Okay. So don't feel compelled to do the same as everybody else. Do what's meaningful for the person that you want to be meaningful for. Yeah.
And that'll be different. And think of the person. If the executive's stressed out, maybe he just wants an hour massage. Maybe that's the best present the wife could get him.
Absolutely. Well, I know you've got a little sort of gift for everybody on the call in terms of some tips and takeaways. It's PDF, isn't there?
It sure is.
This is not a sales brochure. It's a PDF.
No, it'll have some of the things that we've been talking about, and I've just got a list of different Valentine's ideas for those of you that want to show appreciation to anybody, really. It doesn't have to just be a lover, but yeah.
Well, what I'm going to do after the call, I won't give the URL out now because it's quite a long URL, but after the call I'll email that to everybody so that they can get a copy of that. We've been together now for about 45 minutes or so, and we did tell people we wouldn't go on for much more than half an hour, but I'm really connecting with you here. I could chat with you all night. I've really enjoyed this, and let's finish up with some tips for each other. Let's pretend that we're going out on a date together, okay? I know we didn't speak about this, so this is catching you by surprise a little bit, but
I love surprise.
I want you to give me some tips about how to woo you, and then I'll do the other way around. And it doesn't matter whether it's politically correct or whatever. I think we've known each other long enough now that we can be open and honest, haven't we?
Yes, we can ask it. We can go on the first date now.
Yeah, it's okay. So first date. Oh, where are we going? And if you say teddy bears and balloons and stuff.
I'm a person that very much likes experiences. And another thing is, I don't know if people have heard of NLP, but we process information lots of different ways, through our eyes, through our ears, through taste, through touch. And I'm what you call a kinesthetic person. So I'm very much, it's about physical. I'll touch things. I like sports. I like being outdoors. I like the feel of wind. So I like experiences. I'm very kinesthetic.
Mm-hmm. So where am I taking you then? You've already jumped out of a plane, and it's difficult to top that one, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Well, it doesn't have to be grand like that. I've been on dates where the first date was a rock climbing lesson.
Okay. Well, how about I take you for dinner on top of a mountain somewhere? Not some posh restaurant with fawning waiters, but we're going to be on top of a mountain, and we're going to be on a picnic table with some fantastic food and some wind in our hair, nice and warm. What's the one thing I'm going to say to you that's going to make you melt?
Going to make me melt. Well, that's a good one.
I mean, we can try all the normal lines like, do you come here often? But I'm guessing on top of a mountain the answer's probably no.
No, it would... it would be more about having that experience together, what that means in terms of connection. So what's it like for you to be up there on the mountain with me?
And how did we get up the mountain, I guess, as well. You can be rock climbing. But that's good. So that to you is something which would be much more romantic than traditional kind of Valentine's meal. But you don't see those advertised very often, do you?
No. Well, they're getting more websites where you can have different experiences like that. But also, if I'm really busy in the city and I'm in the hustle and bustle of everyday life, why the heck would I want to be with you in a crowded restaurant where I can hardly hear you? Yeah, get me on the mountaintop. Let's feel the wind and have a picnic. Sounds good to me.
Okay. I think I've pulled.
The meaning behind that for me is, number one, is we've taken ourselves away from the hustle and bustle and madness, and we've chosen to spend time with each other. So, in terms of languages of love, that quality time together.
Yeah, I like this idea of calming the noise. I think, I tell you what, if you take your mobile phone with you and you've got that switched on during dinner, date's over, I'm off, because that's my pet hate. Turn the damn mobile off.
Yeah, totally agree.
That's it. Okay, so the other way around, if we're on the date, the one thing that I'm speaking out of turn perhaps for the other gentlemen on the call, but let us be gentlemen, yeah? Let us wine and dine you without fear of a power battle setting in. Let us treat you in the way that you want to be treated, but perhaps don't feel that you can because of the social norms. So let us do the romantic stuff without making it funny or trying to take control. And I think there's a lot of difficulty, I think, at the moment with everybody wants to be in control all the time, and sometimes it's okay to let go and just trust, isn't it?
Yep, and I guess that depends on the relationship too.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really interesting things with some of these non-traditional relationships like polyamory and swingers and those kind of relationships. It's actually built on a high level of trust.
I'm not even sure what they are. Polyamorous, did you say?
Well, we'll have to do that another time then.
Yeah. Tune in this same back channel next week. Okay. I genuinely don't know what they are, so maybe Google's going to be...
They're non-monogamous. You're having more than one relationship at a time. It's not just about free sex. They're about relationships of connection, but you can only do that at this high levels of trust. Then you can let go of the control.
Only if you ask the wife, I guess.
That helps. But I've spoken with people that are very involved in, the kind of practices where they do a little bit of whipping and whatever, and they said, you have to have high levels of trust to be able to do that, because you have to trust the other partner isn't going to hurt you or damage you or misuse you.
Okay, and I guess that's a whole new It's a whole new call, the power exchange and all that kind of stuff. But
but yeah, trust. Yeah, trust when you
probably not one for a first date. I would suggest.
Not a first date. No. The analogy there was about you talked about control. Let go of the control, and you can do that. That's a high level of trust. I do that when I'm dancing. If I have a really good dance partner that's firm with me and knows how to lead me, I can totally let go and not be in control. If I have a partner who just cannot lead, I just naturally start taking over.
Yeah. So you want to feel safe, don't you?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So men maybe need to think about what can help a woman to feel safe.
Okay. Well, let's do that then. What things should we be saying from the heart, not making up, but what sort of things do women like to hear apart from there's £1 million in the bank that will make them feel safe? Or maybe that's it.
If the man want to be a gentleman and ask her out. One thing is about give her a voice in where you're going. One area that gets a lot of people in trouble, a lot of guys in trouble, is when they insist on picking the woman up and the woman's saying, no, let me drive there. For her, that's about a safety issue. It's not about rejection. And when the men become too insistent, no, I insist on picking you up, the women do not feel safe. So just small things like that.
What about paying the bill? What's the modern politics around that? Do we split it, or do I pay it because it's me paying for you for services rendered later, or what?
I mean, the idea is if the man has asked, then there's the idea that the men pay for that. But again, it depends on what you agree on. But I know there's still a lot of the old-fashioned, if the man wants me to go out, then he has to pay. And maybe the first time that's a pretty good idea because it also fits with the gentleman who wants to lead and look after the woman. That's fine. Now, if you have subsequent dates,
then split it.
Yeah.
I never thought I'd say this, but let us pay for more things, ladies. Oh, God. I just lost half the men on the call.
But I think, and that goes down to women saying, oh, well, if he pays for it, then he's going to expect something.
Yeah.
So if the man can pay for it in a way that she doesn't feel pressure that she has to give it up, that will make a difference. But a lot of women have had the experience, oh, well, I took you out for dinner. Why are you not inviting me out for coffee? So I know it's not coffee you want. Yeah,
so we're back to the old transaction, which actually is a completely ridiculous way of running the show. But we don't learn easily, do we? So hopefully in the future things will be a lot better as people get more in touch with themselves and, by extension, with others. And I think I've certainly learned a lot during this call. We all said we were going to have a bit of banter, we were going to throw stuff around. Some of it's been a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but there's been some really serious messages in here which I think will help people in existing relationships, or at least people that are going into new relationships won't make some of the mistakes that we've been making for so many years by not being ourselves.
Absolutely. It's really about showing up in a really genuine place, being genuinely interested in the other person, and being who we are. Definitely, that's the new paradigm.
Perfect.
So it would be lovely to hear from people because once they get the PDF that we're sending, just to if anybody has any responses from today's call, it'd be great. If they could get in touch and let us know what they learned and gained and what they found useful. And any more questions?
Yeah, if people come in, I'll send the PDF out. People can email back with questions, anonymously if they like. And let's see what kind of response we get. Maybe we should do that second call. I'm not sure that I'm qualified to talk about many of the things that you've alluded to, polyamours and all the rest of it. But hey, if people want it, we can do it.
And the thing to remember is whatever question somebody has, they're not the only one. Somebody else has got the same question. So yeah.
Yeah, and we're grown up, so it's unlikely to shock us. Yep. Listen, we're coming up almost. Can you believe we've been on the phone for almost an hour? That's a long time, but the time has flown by. So, Susanne, I'd like to say thank you very much for your time, and we will speak again, I'm sure, and I'll get the questions and things that come in.
That's lovely. Thank you so much. I enjoyed it.
Thank you. Me too. It's been great fun. Bye for now. We'll speak again soon.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye.
I'm a person that very much likes experiences. And another thing is, I don't know if people have heard of NLP, but we process information in lots of different ways, through our eyes, through our ears, through taste, through touch. And I'm what you call a kinesthetic person. So I'm very much, it's about physical. I'll touch things. I like sports. I like being outdoors. I like the feel of wind. So I like experiences. I'm very kinesthetic.
Mm-hmm. So where am I taking you then? You've already jumped out of a plane, and it's difficult to top that one, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Well, it doesn't have to be grand like that. I've been on dates where the first date was a rock climbing lesson.
Okay. Well, how about I take you for dinner on top of a mountain somewhere? Not some posh restaurant with fawning waiters, but we're going to be on top of a mountain, and we're going to be on a picnic table with some fantastic food and some wind in our hair, nice and warm. What's the one thing I'm going to say to you that's going to make you melt?
Going to make me melt. Well, that's a good one.
I mean, we can try all the normal lines like, do you come here often? But I'm guessing on top of a mountain the answer's probably no.
No, it would it would be more about having that experience together, what that means in terms of connection. So what's it like for you to be up there on the mountain with me?
And how did we get up the mountain, I guess, as well. You can be rock climbing. But that's good. So that to you is something which would be much more romantic than traditional kind of Valentine's meal. But you don't see those advertised very often, do you?
No. Well, they're getting more websites where you can have different experiences like that. But also, if I'm really busy in the city and I'm in the hustle and bustle of everyday life, why the heck would I want to be with you in a crowded restaurant where I can hardly hear you? Yeah, get me on the mountaintop. Let's feel the wind and have a picnic. Sounds good to me.
Okay. I think I've pulled.
The meaning behind that for me is, number one, is we've taken ourselves away from the hustle and bustle and madness, and we've chosen to spend time with each other. So, in terms of languages of love, that quality time together.
Yeah, I like this idea of calming the noise. I think, I tell you what, if you take your mobile phone with you and you've got that switched on during dinner, date's over, I'm off, because that's my pet hate. Turn the damn mobile off.
Yeah, totally agree.
That's it. Okay, so the other way around, if we're on the date, the one thing that I'm speaking out of turn perhaps for the other gentlemen on the call, but let us be gentlemen, yeah? Let us wine and dine you without fear of a power battle setting in. Let us treat you in the way that you want to be treated, but perhaps don't feel that you can because of the social norms. So let us do the romantic stuff without making it funny or trying to take control. And I think there's a lot of difficulty, I think, at the moment with everybody wants to be in control all the time, and sometimes it's okay to let go and just trust, isn't it?
Yep, and I guess that depends on the relationship too.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really interesting things with some of these non-traditional relationships like polyamory and swingers and those kind of relationships. It's actually built on a high level of trust.
I'm not even sure what they are. Polyamorous, did you say?
Well, we'll have to do that another time then.
Yeah. Tune in this same back channel next week. Okay. I genuinely don't know what they are, so maybe Google's going to be...
They're non-monogamous. You're having more than one relationship at a time. It's not just about free sex. They're about relationships of connection, but you can only do that if there's high levels of trust. Then you can let go of the control.
Only if you ask the wife, I guess.
That helps. But I've spoken with people that are very involved in, the kind of practices where they do a little bit of whipping and whatever, and they said, you have to have high levels of trust to be able to do that, because you have to trust the other partner isn't going to hurt you or damage you or misuse you.
Okay, and I guess that's a whole new call, but the power exchange and all that kind of stuff. But
trust, yeah. Trust when you
probably not one for a first date, I would suggest.
Not a first date. No. The analogy there was about, you talked about control, let go of the control, and you can do that with a high level of trust. I do that when I'm dancing. If I have a really good dance partner that's firm with me, and knows how to lead me, I can totally let go and not be in control. If I have a partner who just cannot lead, I just naturally start taking over.
Yeah. Yeah. So you want to feel safe, don't you?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So men maybe need to think about what can help a woman to feel safe.
Okay. Well, let's do that then. What things should we be saying from the heart, not making up, but what sort of things do women like to hear apart from there's £1 million in the bank that will make them feel safe? Or maybe that's it.
The man's want to be a gentleman and ask her out. One thing is about give her a voice in where you're going. One area that gets a lot of people in trouble, a lot of guys in trouble, is when they insist on picking the woman up and the woman's saying, no, let me drive there. For her, that's about a safety issue. It's not about rejection. And when the men become too insistent, no, I insist on picking you up, the women do not feel safe. So just small things like that.
What about paying the bill? What's the modern politics around that? Do we split it, or do I pay it because it's me paying for you for services rendered later, or what?
I mean, the idea is if the man has asked, then there's the idea that the men pay for that. But again, it depends on what you agree on. But I know there's still a lot of the old-fashioned, if the man wants me to go out, then he has to pay. And maybe the first time that's a pretty good idea because it also fits with the gentleman who wants to lead and look after the woman. That's fine. Now, if you have subsequent dates,
then split it.
Yeah.
I never thought I'd say this, but let us pay for more things, ladies. Oh God, I just lost half the men on the call.
But I think, and that goes down to the women saying, "Oh, well, if he pays for it, then he's going to expect something."
Yeah.
So if the man can pay for it in a way that she doesn't feel pressured that she has to give it up, that will make a difference. But a lot of women have had the experience, oh, well, I took you out for dinner. Why are you not inviting me out for coffee? So I know it's not coffee you want.
Yeah, so we're back to the old transaction, which actually is a completely ridiculous way of running the show. But we don't learn easily, do we? So hopefully in the future things will be a lot better as people get more in touch with themselves and, by extension, with others. And I think I've certainly learned a lot during this call. We all said we were going to have a bit of banter, we're going to throw stuff around. Some of it's been a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but there's been some really serious messages in here which I think will help people in existing relationships, or at least people that are going into new relationships won't make some of the mistakes that we've been making for so many years by not being ourselves.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's really about showing up in a really genuine place, being genuinely interested in the other person, and being who we are. Definitely, that's the new paradigm. Perfect. So it'd be lovely to hear from people because once they get the PDF that we're sending, if anybody has any responses from today's call, it'd be great. If they could get in touch and let us know what they learned and gained and what they found useful. And any more questions?
Yeah, if people come in, I'll send the PDF out. People can email back with questions, anonymously if they like, and let's see what kind of response we get. Maybe we should do that second call. I'm not sure that I'm qualified to talk about many of the things that you've alluded to, polyamours and all the rest of it. But hey, if people want it, we can do it.
And the thing to remember is whatever question somebody has, they're not the only one. Somebody else has got the same question. So yeah. Yeah,
and we're grown up, so it's unlikely to shock us.
Yeah.
Listen, we're coming up almost. Can you believe we've been on the phone for almost an hour? That's a long time, but the time has flown by. So, Susanne, I'd like to say thank you very much for your time, and we will speak again, I'm sure, and I'll get the questions and things that come in.
That's lovely. Thank you so much. I enjoyed it.
Thank you. Me too. It's been great fun. Bye for now. We'll speak again soon.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye.